Yeah, we have Tim and Candice. So retail is the asset class that is changing the most, but how does the future of retail look like? Is it experience design? Is it full service center? Is it technology or is it data? We dive into these questions together with Candice Lemaitre. She works as a the developer and innovation lead at Transport for London. And we have Tim Smeets. He is Director of Digital Transformation and Technology at Wereldhave. Hello, Candice and Tim.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hello there.
Their houses kind of match, don't they?
Yeah.
You guys have similar tastes. Who knew?
Seemingly we do.
But Candice is from London, I guess, and Tim is in Amsterdam somewhere.
Exactly.
Nearby.
Close to Amsterdam, yeah. Well, maybe the first question, is the real estate, the retail industry dying? What do you think?
Tim, want to start? Should I start?
Ladies first, go ahead, Candice, and I'll add to your story.
Thank you. No, I don't think so, and I don't hope so. We TfL, we are one of the biggest landlords in London. We operate over 2,000 retail units across London, and I think it's not dying. And on the top of that, there is a lot of opportunity of changing, at least for us, the high street, because it's where we operate. We operate on the high street and station, transport-related location. But no, I don't think it's dying. It's just that it's a perfect timing to reinvent itself, and it has to survive.
Yeah, and let me just add to that. So yeah, Wereldhave owns and operates retail centers, shopping centers across the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. And of course, I certainly agree with you. I certainly hope retail is not dying. And then, by the way, I don't think so either. It's just really interesting times now. Retail does need to change, and I'm assuming that we will have quite an in-depth discussion about where and why and how. Because in general, we just see that retail functions are becoming less relevant in certain areas. So we can have a little bit of a chat about that as well. But there is still a need. It's just about creating the optimal mix and an interesting, balance between what people really are looking for in terms of experience and offering and so on.
Yeah, so the retail industry is as live as never before, maybe.
Well, there's certainly a lot of movement and things going on in retail. There's a lot of, people looking into their daily operations, into looking new collaborations, into looking, okay, what's my location strategy? Do I need to be everywhere? Certainly, there's becoming less need for particular functions, right? So, for instance, fashion and shoes and leatherwear and accessories and travel, for instance, especially now due to the after effects of the corona pandemic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things happening now.
So what is needed to differentiate for another and to attract tenants?
So I'm happy to jump on this one, if you don't mind, Tim, first.
Go ahead.
I think there is definitely a shift between the property, the space as a physical space, where a couple of years ago the idea was to I want a space that is well located and a space that is well designed. So we were really about the physical aspect of the unit. Now we are really moving. Is it just me? There is a lot of echo.
Yeah, there is an echo. Yeah, I don't know why that echo is there, but hopefully it's gone right now.
Okay.
No, it's not. Do you have does one of you guys have a stream open or something like that?
Are you watching the conference as well? No. Okay.
I think it's better now.
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
Fantastic. So now I was just saying, we're really moving from what tenants were looking for, as a physical space, to now what I call a space as a service, or what we can call, property as a service. We are, tenants are more likely to pick a location where we have all the associated services that come with it. And this is now we can see the development conciergerie.
Yeah, that's crazy. That sound sometimes is echoing. But Tim, maybe you can reflect on that as well. So it's going to be more like a product of a service?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing, basically what we are looking into is trying to create the optimal mix. So there's supposed to be a more interesting mix of functions. And so what Wereldhave did is we early in 2020 announced a major transformation of our assets. Why? Because we saw already that the traditional shopping center is becoming not so much obsolete, but it serves a different kind of purpose. So more or less the convenience shopping centers. We strongly believe in what we call a full service centers, which you mentioned earlier. And what we try to achieve is trying to create that optimal balance between everyday shopping, so fulfilling the daily needs, but also, and it includes fashion, beauty, food and beverage, but also in combination with leisure, entertainment, and of course also healthcare and well-being. And in creating that optimal mix, you have a more well-balanced offering, which is more relevant to the particular environment. People that live there, or people that travel there, or work there, and so on.
Yeah, so everything is coming together in those shopping centers.
That's the idea, to make sure that it's a well-balanced mix. 1 + 1 = 3. That's the idea, of course, and it makes also a better return, of course, for investors.
Yeah.
So what's gone by the wayside? What are we not going to see in retail anymore?
Yeah, interesting. Difficult question to answer. If you take a look at the functions within retail, I think especially those branches which I just mentioned, that's also fashion, sportswear, shoes, leather and accessories, and travel. I think there's going to be a huge consolidation that needs to happen because there's too much offering, also too many square meters currently. So we're going to see is just less of the same. And one of the things also that I hear a lot around in the market is that we see more interesting clusters of smaller shops, from boutiques and so on. Combined, of course, with an offering which is additional to the core product, with more around experience and having fun.
Yeah. And I think sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, for us as a landlord as well, what is going to change? It's probably the relationship that landlords will have with tenants. We're going to try to create more partnership with our tenants. We're going to try to make everything possible to make them successful, because we are looking for this win-win relationship. And this is where this service aspect is also going to develop. We're going to help you to make your business successful by providing business supports, by maybe providing any type of tool that can help you to better measure how your store is performing with data analytics, for example. We're going to help you to optimize your cost by making the units connected, and you can better manage your energy or water consumption. So it's really creating a partnership to make this win-win relationship between the landlord and the tenants. And we can see that this is moving to also new sort of rents that the landlord is exploring. So this is all the new thing that I think we're going to see happening really very soon, even already.
Yeah, what kind of technologies do you need for that to make that happen? What are you looking for?
Well, I think like every industry, data is becoming more and more important. And specifically with COVID, maybe we want to understand what is happening on the high streets. where our people are, who are passing in front of our shop, where these people come from, and what type of product do they buy. And this is what we called data, location intelligence data, really trying to capture this information to, one, help landlords to create the perfect tenant mix. We want to make sure that when we create a group of tenants, they can all be successful at the same place, but also helping our tenant. Again, this is based on the relationship, making sure that we use this information to place the tenant when he can really meet his customer and so be successful. So the assisting the placemaking strategy, assisting our tenants. Again, if I have the ability to predict the increased footfall in the coming months, I can inform my tenants, and it can maybe increase the staff, because he's going to have more people. He can maybe put in place more marketing initiative. So this data is becoming really, really critical for landlords.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. You couldn't agree more. No, for sure not. So, but you as as a digital transformation officer and also as a technology officer at Wereldhave, why is data getting more important than ever before?
Well, of course, we see also a growth in the ambition. We see a growth in also the maturity, not only within Wereldhave, but in general in the market, of course. And they becoming more data driven is essential. Why? Because the bottom line is becoming more important. We, as well as the retailers, operate on such a small margin that every decision needs to be factual, and we need to make sure that we can come up with a proper business case, especially when we as Wereldhave, for instance, want to make a big transformation, but also from an investment perspective from the retailers as well. Especially now when they're still on support from government, and they have a challenge even to have the vacation pay, so the leave pay in May processed. Yeah, that's becoming more and more challenging. So data is essential. I think you need to make it a split between who you're serving. If you have an internal organization to serve, you need to look really into your operational data. So on a day-to-day, you need to make sure where do you stand, what are your key performance measures that you want to keep track of on a daily basis. But what we also try to do is make sure that we have a much better understanding about our visitors, because that information is key. So what are their profiles? How many times do people visit our centers? Where do they go to? Where else do they go to? If they're not shopping with us, where are they from exactly? Yeah. And are they families? What's their age? What are they interested in? What's their shopper profile? How much money do they actually have to spend? And what's our share of wallet actually? And if they come into our centers, do they go to one shop, or do they also visit other shops as well? And that's interesting, because that data is, again, that needs to become more insightful information, which is not only relevant for us as well, but it also is input to the conversation that we have with our tenants as well. Because if we have a conversation about extending the contracts, or making changes to the contracts, or trying to relocate tenants as well, we need to come up with a very proper story. And on the other hand, if a tenant comes to us with a request, hey, listen, we're in a hard place right now. We need a little bit of support just to make sure we can manage and we can maintain the situation, and we will be able to pay our rent not just now or this month, but also in the coming, the next 3 to 5 years, or the duration of our contract. And that's really, really key, because this also feeds back to the point that you, Candice, made, is that the relationship with our tenants is changing indeed. There's more skin in the game from a landlord, which also feeds back to the point that you need to look into different types of business models, more performance-based types of contracts as well. So you show that you are one-on-one, working together with your tenant, and that requires time, because that's it's a difficult conversation to have. It requires trust. It requires a new type of conversation.
Yeah.
We as a landlord need to be more open, a bit more transparent as well. Share insights, for instance, on benchmarking data. And on the other hand, also the tenant, the retailer themselves, they also need to be more open about how they're doing, how are they running their shop, what kind of operating margin do they have, where do they actually need support, and so on. So that's really changing.
And do you feel like the tech? Oh, sorry. No, you go ahead, please, Candice.
Oh no, just jumping on the communication aspect, which is quite interesting as well. We can see, emerging all this communication tool supported or not by chatbot and AI. But this is also something that is changing, is the relationship. We are trying to use technology to streamline processes. So when there is simple task, then we can give that to machine and automation. And that's basically free up time for property manager to have a real relationship with tenants. And this is where technology is bringing also a lot of value, is that the tenant wants something immediately. The chatbot will be there to support them. I want to have a real conversation. My property manager is available, because we're not taking time on managing and I would say small task. So very interesting to see also this type of technology progressing.
Absolutely. And I can mention, for instance, two very concrete examples that we as Wereldhave are currently looking into more and more. One is a platform for our tenants where they can stay in contact with each other, but also where they can have like normal services. For instance, if a light bulb has exploded, or there's a need for a janitor or a cleaner or glass cleaning or anything else, those are really pretty much routine types of procedures. Then there's not so much need of really, let's say, human interaction, but based on a very interesting and smart piece of technology in terms of a platform, those kinds of simple processes can be catered through self-service. So a tenant goes to a platform, makes a call, puts in a request. There's not much really interaction with, for instance, our asset managers, because the tenant can service themselves. And if there's a need for proper interaction, more insight, a real conversation, then it's different, of course. So you really need to look closely where can you automate to make things more efficient, more self-serviced, and so on, or where you want to have really an added value and bring in knowledge and understanding.
So I wanted to build on a little bit of what you both were talking about, having the data, having that scan, changing the way that retailers are working. Is that something that we're going to see as consumers? Is our experience going to change? Or is this really behind the scenes where things are going to be working more efficiently?
I think as a consumer, you're gonna see a lot. Probably, everything, as you say, behind the scene in terms of property management. It's not something that we're gonna see. However, we can already link the online and the physical environment, where physical space will be more and more dedicated to experience, with maybe the use of immersive technology. So this is something that is going to probably change, is what we do in a physical space and how do we interact with the online space of a brand. And I think this is something that is going to change for the consumer, and I hope for good, because COVID demonstrates that you don't need a physical space really to sell products. However, communicate the value of your brands, communicate with your customers, you need the physical space. So this is something that I think will change definitely.
Yeah. About you talked about the transparency and the working together with tenants, or maybe we call them customers or partners in the future instead of tenants. But that transparency is, well, everybody in real estate is talking about that transparency. How can we? What kind of barriers do we need to take to really get to that next level of transparency? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's a little bit about the chicken and egg. But I see still there's a lot of hesitance. But I think as a landlord, there's a huge opportunity also to take the first step. And there are a lot of themes and topics that you can start the discussion about just to test the waters. For instance, on the item of visitors, the amount of visitors and trends. What we used to do, for instance, we only communicated based on indexes. So the changes, or how do the numbers from this year compare to last week or last year and so on. Now we're just moving towards sharing the actual data. And we used to be afraid of that, that the information would be sort of, used against us in order to have a discount on the rents.
Yeah.
But what we actually see is that it's not so much a case because, in real life, the tenants and the retailers, they already know what's happening. So they are aware of the actual numbers. They see how many people actually visit their shops. If they step outside that doorway, they can see if it's busy or whether it's not that busy anymore, right? Yeah. So there's also this conception, which is just not true anymore. And we as a landlord, we have a huge opportunity to step over that point and start on, for instance, those topics, such as you just mentioned on visitor trends, and just take it from there. And there's probably also other topics. Maybe, I don't know, Candice, are there any topics that you're currently investigating or discussing more and more in a transparent way with your tenants?
Yeah, well, depend in which tenants, but there is now this link between the physical and the digital space, and then one thing that you maybe start to hear about is this halo effect concept, meaning what is the impact of the physical space to your online sales, and then again this is transparency. Today, landlords are mostly focusing about the success of the brands, or at least at the shop, the physical shop. So how many sales are you making on this specific location? Where we should have a much more global view of what my physical space is bringing you to your overall brand, your overall sale, and people that are interacting or passing in front of the shop, how many sales online this is driving, and this is the transparency that need to happen between brand and landlords, and COVID really demonstrate that yes, the shop is closed, but we are doing click and collect, or people are just passing in front of the shop and then can see the brand and then automatically go online. So I think there is also this barrier between physical and online, where we need, through the relationship, to have much more transparency in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the future of retail going to look like in 2025, 2030? What is going to be the major change?
I think there's going to be less physical retail. I think it's going to be just let's say more of the same. You don't need more places to buy, you need more places to be.
Yeah. If
you want to put it like that. And I would say I would expect much less traditional retail in terms of offering and amount of retail. I also think that there's going to be less retail space. Why? Because there's not so much needed anymore. It's going to be a more optimal mix between online and offline. Deliveries are so super quickly from warehouses. Yeah. If you look into logistics, that's becoming smarter and smarter. You see integrations in the supply chain happening faster. There's also a lot of smart things going on with the data that's being exchanged between all of those different parties in the whole supply chain. So that means that's faster, more efficient operation. So, you know, if you want to have something delivered to you at your doorstep, you know, by before 11, and the next day it's going to be there. So, yeah, different functions, less traditional retail, more other types of functions, and less square meters of retail. That's my expectation, at least.
Yeah, so really places where we also really want to be, where we really want to get inspired, maybe, and buy our stuff.
Yeah, less places to buy, more places to be.
Yeah.
You can quote me on that.
That's a good quote. Yeah.
And definitely, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with Steve. The experience will be, you know, more, I want to experience something rather than buying something. That for sure for the customer. I think for the retail and the landlord as well, it's going to be more about flexibility, and you know, the traditional model where we are promoting a lease for a couple of years. We're gonna now go to this really, you know, extreme flexibility where I can rent the space for just, you know, a day, a couple hours, you know, really adjust to my need. If I'm a brand and I know that my customer are only Friday, Saturday, why do I want to rent the space for the rest of the week? And we can see a lot of this concept, you know, booming. We have few of them in the UK. I know there is few of them elsewhere, but this concept, a bit like, you know, Airbnb, I'm going through a platform and I can rent the space for a very short amount of time. We had for a very long time Happy Here storefronts. I think this concept is going to be pushed forward much further to, you know, renting by the hour. That will go with also probably less need of fit out. We're going to probably rethink the way, you know, we fit out shop. Maybe probably more digital. Maybe it will be just, you know, VR. You go to an empty space and then you just have VR, and then technology will create the environment. I don't know, but I think it's where we're definitely going in the future.
So
yeah, a lot more flexibility at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like service is coming back into retail, whether it's even more. So whether it's technology aided, you're talking about VR, having not so many products in the store, but more of an experience. You know, we went away from service in retail for a while, and now it seems like we're coming back in a more experienced way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so too.
But the diversity, what is very interesting is by bringing more flexibility and probably affordability of the high street, and we can see that, you know, with COVID, we're thinking local. I think we're going to really unlock the diversity of offering, not having always the same brands, but maybe, you know, a lot of new, different, small businesses that will be able to trade and bring something different to the consumer.
So maybe the last question that I have for you before we close off this panel, what would your advice be to real estate professionals that are in retail? What would be the first step that they can take to this, well, future of retail?
Well, it's a space that kind of, I think, be a very slow adopter of technology and change. And then I think it's really the time to go. So don't be afraid to disrupt the traditional concept, because it's the only way we can reinvent ourselves. And probably think not about only revenue, but value. And how we drive more value than purely, you know, financial, commercial outcome from the space. I think this is really what is gonna drive forward the industry.
Thank you. Yeah, and Tim.
Yeah, I thought about this question a bit as well, and I'd like to make things practical for people as well. But you know, one of the things that we discussed during this call as well, and one of the important aspects is, of course, you know, have a really good understanding about who you're trying to serve and what you're offering, and does it make sense, and what's going to be the mix as well. And so You need to have your location intelligence in place. You need to have the capabilities within your organization in place to make sure that you are able to make sense out of that and can make smarter decisions. And you have a really, really proper and well-balanced strategy in order to create that optimal mix and make sure that you have a proper offering which really caters to the needs of that particular area or your audience or your visitors or your tenants or consumers, if you will.
Yeah, so raise the game and be flexible.
As well, which requires, you know, collaboration
Yeah.
in the whole chain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Can't wait either. Yeah.
Thank you both.
It's happening.
It's happening. That's what it is.
Slowly, but it's happening.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Tim and Candice.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank
Till
you,
next
much appreciated.
time. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.